Hi, welcome to Love Chats. I'm Dr. Kathryn Elliott, and today I want to share with you something that I learned at Papa's knee about male and female relationships. And it's something that turns an old myth about how men and women relate on their heads. When I was 5 years old, and this is a memory that's very vivid to me, I remember sitting on the steps of our house, and it was springtime. Papa had a thistle flower that he had picked on the side of the road and was pulling all the thorns out until it was a pure pink powder puff, and Papa handed me the powder puff. Now, what that said to me as a little 5-year-old girl was that this man, this grandfather who I loved and who loved me, was honoring me. He would take out all the thistles and he would hand me the soft powder puff to treasure me, to show his cherishing. And that set a precedent in my mind that I began to expect that male and female relationships would be relationships of blessing. Now, as I got older, I learned about the War of the Sexes. But you know what I found out as a marriage and family therapist over the last 30 years was that that is a cultural myth, and that underneath that myth is an undercurrent that's been going on day after day between men and women, and that undercurrent is a current of blessing. So I began to formalize in my couple therapy practice a way to actually teach couples to deliberately bless each other. And the first way that we can start being aware that we can bless is to start being conscious of it happening, because it is happening all around us. I was at the post office and I was trying to carry a big box into the door of the post office, and a man came and gallantly opened the door for me in a very kind way. And I said, "Thank you so much." And he said, "You're welcome." And there was something more than mere civility in what happened there. And so I told my daughter about this phenomenon of blessing that goes on between men and women. And I said, watch for it. So we drove to the Circle K for her to get out and get some items she needed. And I stayed in the car. But as she started to enter the door, a man opened it for her in a very conscious, deliberate, and kind way. And she, instead of just brusquely rushing in past him, stopped, turned to him and said, "Thank you so much." And he beamed at her. So when she got back to the car, she said, "It's really true. It really works that he was blessing me and I received it." So here's how to formalize what I've come to call the animus blessing and the anima blessing. Animus blessing comes and is influenced by the work of Carl Jung, who talked about animus and anima. Animus being the masculine principle in life that shows up in a strong way in men and even shows up in women. But it's marked by the animus principle is marked by those things that we characteristically call masculine, that is, protection, caring, taking charge, and helping you learn and empower someone. So whenever a little girl is told by her daddy, "You're my little princess," that's that masculine cherishing and honoring of the feminine. That's an animus blessing. Whenever a little older girl is trying to learn to ride her two-wheeled bike and her daddy holds the seat for her like my daddy did, I'm remembering it right now, and helps her gain the confidence and the balance to ride on her own, that's an animus blessing. And whenever a daughter comes down at 17 in her prom dress and her dad looks up at her and says, "You'll be the belle of the ball," that's an animus blessing too. And so beware that these have been happening all our lives, and we just need to stay conscious so that that cultural myth now becomes a myth of blessing that we're giving to each other. Now, what is the anima blessing? The anima blessing is marked by the feminine principle of receptivity, gratitude, love, and softness. And so, what does the feminine do in response to the animus blessing? Why, she just melts and receives it and responds in acknowledgement of what's been done for her and in gratitude. So you can now consciously start being aware of blessing your children if you're a dad, of blessing your husband if you're a wife. And it doesn't have to be connected to romance at all, although that's fantastic when it is. But even if it's friends, I have a close friend who, he and I aren't even the same sexual orientation, but he blesses me with the animus blessing, and it's not romantic at all. He just cares for me and honors me and sees me. And I, in turn, receive it and am so grateful. You can do this among yourselves, and then we will create a cultural revolution where men and women live not in cursing with each other, but in blessing. Have a loving day.